me. Okay. Except for those who are online. I'm sorry. We love you, but you could just pretend you have a prize. All right, as they're passing out the prizes, I just want to ask this table over here to give me a representative. You got a representative that you want to bring up on stage? Come on. All right. I just want to ask you, you kind of screamed something at me a little bit ago. You want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Hello, my name is Jessica. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus. I struggle with codependency, effects of past abuse, self-worth, and grief.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
How was your experience?
Well, I said to you, I want to speak to the cartographer.
Which I don't know what that means, but I don't think we have one of those. Yeah.
That's the map maker.
I know, the map maker. So, you got frustrated, and you might have said some expletives in there, but I won't say anything like that.
That's not me.
This is a safe place. So really, for you, it was frustrating because you felt like the map was poorly put together. Is that what you're trying to say? That sounds like a lot of blame happening. A lot of blame.
It's not so much blame as truth.
Oh, my. Oh, wow. Woo. So for you guys, does everybody agree that the issue was not your incompetence? It was the map's fault. And you were not able to achieve the prize, not because you lack in ability, but because of the map's construction. Would you say that's true?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's give this group a hand for not winning the prize. Okay. Does anybody else have that same experience that you blame the map for what happened? What is that true for every table besides the winners? Huh? Okay, come on up, brother. Come on up here. He said something that's really important. Okay, here. I want you to share what you just said.
So we never left our table.
That's pathetic.
No, I'm a submarine sailor. I need sonar to find anything.
Okay, so you were under the table. Yeah,
I was
there
actually. True. Yeah.
So why did you not leave your table? You could have just started blindly looking, right?
Well, that's what we thought everybody else was doing.
Ah, yes. So you wouldn't play my little game. You're like, we're not playing his little game.
It's like, what's the secret code, you know?
So there was a little bit of, so how would you describe what you were seeing on the map?
Confusion.
Confusing. Anybody else deal with some confusion? In confusion, understand this. Confusion kept him from even leaving the table.
Us, not him, us.
Yeah. We're in this together. We all quit together, yeah. Keep not quitting, brother. Let's give it up for this group that are a bunch of quitters. Okay. Give it up for the quitters. Anybody else have a different experience? Braxton, what was your experience, buddy? You what? The illustrator. There weren't any pictures? You had 5 X's, so there were a lot of different goals. You could have gotten 5 prizes, right? What? Oh, you got all spiritual. Yeah, he said where the X is, where the cross is. That's pretty good. You should have won the prize. Yeah. And Bobby came up here and asked me some questions. She was trying to cheat. basically. You know, she slipped me $20 and said, hey, where is this thing? Yeah. Anybody else have another experience? Come on up, Norma. Storm and Norma. Come on, Storm and Norma. You want to introduce yourself? Oh, you all right? Good calling. Okay.
Hi, everybody. My name is Norma, and I'm a grateful believer in Jesus, and I struggle with Bill.
Oh, where's Bill? Oh,
You know what?
we do need a group for that. Holy man, there's a lot of people in here with that same issue.
You know
Yeah.
what? I was just running around. Of course, Pete's saying, "Who's got the map? Who's got the map?" We didn't bring the map.
So you didn't know who had the map?
Yeah.
So you guys just took off without the map.
Yeah,
Okay,
but-
that's pretty good.
But when I found out that somebody had a clue, we didn't get any clue on our.
You seem a little angry right now. You need to just back it down, Norma.
So I wasn't happy, and I felt like I had been cheated.
All right, time to work on your inventory. All right, this group working on their inventory. Okay. So they left you. All right, so I hope what you figured out up to this point is that each one of you got a different map. Each one of you got a different map. They were all wrong except for one. A lot of anger. Just, hey, I hear some people really hurt and frustrated. Casey just flipped the table, lost his mind. It was pretty funny watching you guys running around here with the wrong maps. Yeah, I saw Eric Henderson right away. He's just like, I'm going home. I think he said, I'm leaving, basically. It's really something that I want to drill down on that has been kind of a new discovery for our team. And that is that a lot of people come to Recovery Alive, and they're looking for a solution that a lot of us already have discovered, right? We're kind of, not that, I'm going to read here in a minute. Paul says, not that I have attained this yet, not that I've figured all this stuff out. But if some of us have been coming to celebrate recovery, coming to Recovery Alive, been doing recovery for a while, then we have already gotten to a place where we kind of know where we're going. I don't know if you've been in this situation before. I drive my kids to school a lot of times, and it's just a daily routine that I would get into. And then so sometimes I'd be driving my vehicle somewhere else, and I just find myself in the Triple S parking lot going, how did I end up here, right? Have you done that before where you're on autopilot because you know where to go? All the turns you have almost like memorized, right? And it's just effortless. But the newcomer has no idea what we're offering them, how to get there. They don't have a clue of the roadmap to recovery. And I've just started to realize that I need to do a better job of helping people who walk into these doors find what they are looking for. Does that make sense to you? And if we don't have the right map, or if the map is missing, people are going to come in here, and what are they going to do? They're going to be confused. Some of y'all were confused. What else are they going to be? Feel alone, overwhelmed, anxious, quit. They won't even get out of the table. They won't even get up from the table. They'll just be like, this is too hard. This makes no sense to me. I don't know. All these people are like, woo, I'm there. And they're like, I have no clue how to get there. And we don't want that for them. We want to have a very clear and simple roadmap for them to get from hopelessness to hope. A roadmap that they're going to be on, right? They haven't gotten there, but they want to see how they're going to get from bondage to freedom, right? They need to see the light at the end of the tunnel, sure, but they need to know how to get through the tunnel in the first place. Does this make sense, what I'm telling you? And so our job as leaders, something I'm going to give you today that I want every one of you to leave here saying, I know exactly how to take a newcomer from this beginning place where they walk across that ankle-twisting gravel parking lot, right? They walk across the parking lot, they walk into these doors, and they say, how do you recover? And you can say, I'm so glad you asked. I'm going to show you. Does this make sense? Do you think that this is important? Can you get behind this? Okay. So, how many of you guys grew up? Some of you are younger, but some of you guys grew up where you had a map in your car called Rand McNally. Did anybody have a Rand McNally, like little atlas, right? And that's how you got to your destination, right? And it was a book like the size of a Cadillac in your car. It was just this giant book, you know, so you'd be driving down. People are like freaked out that people are on their little cell phones today. But for me, I'm driving with my knees with this giant map book in front of my face, trying to figure out where I'm going. I remember getting lost in St. Louis one time. That was not very fun. I remember being lost in New York City at one point in time. We had a conference in New York. I have been lost in some of the greatest cities in America, I'm telling you right now, because I have no sense of direction. God did not put that compass inside of me. I'm also somebody, I'm not good at following maps, even if there is a good cartographer. I am terrible at following directions. I don't like following directions, first of all. How many of you are direction followers? You know, you OCD weirdos out there. Okay, yeah. I don't like directions, and I'm not a big fan of plans. I remember the first time I went to Disney World, I had no plan with my family what we were going to do. We just showed up. It was one of the worst vacations of our lives. First of all, we went in July. Don't go to Disney World in July. We just kind of were staying at this place that I had stayed through this conference. We didn't really have a plan. I had to buy Disney World tickets from the concierge desk. Don't do that. Don't do that. I ended up spending my life savings. I remember being so frustrated every day. These people had these things called fast passes, and they're jumping line. I almost got in a fight. No joke. You ask my kids. I almost got in a physical fight with a guy who had jumped line because I was so frustrated. When you don't have a plan, even if you're not a planner, things can get frustrating, right? Maps can get so detailed that they can become confusing. How many of you remember before the Google Maps, you would use MapQuest and print off MapQuests? Oh. Did you ever print the wrong one off and you're like halfway to where, and you're like, what is, or the ink ran out and you didn't know it, so you're on page like 12 and you're like, you know, how do I get there, right? You end up at a Kinko's trying to get on their computer or something like that. Directions can be frustrating. Maps are important, but they can be frustrating and confusing. In recovery, we need a map, and it needs to be simple. It needs to be something that somebody can walk through easily, and then people need some help when they are trying to read that map. My wife loves to help me read directions in the car. And I can get frustrated. Or she can be like, there's a right coming up. And I'm like, I know. And in my head, I'm like, boy, I'm glad she just said that because I would have missed that exit. Woo! I totally do that, right? We need other people to help us on our way figuring this stuff out. Maps give us directions for sure, but they give us a whole lot more than that. And having a roadmap for our newcomers to know how to do recovery does more than help them find out kind of what to do and how to do it. It helps them to plan. It helps them to have realistic expectations of this process. If we tell people, hey, recovery is a breeze, man. It's like going to be the easiest thing you've ever done. Is that a good expectation to set up? No, man. Recovery, it'll take you like 3 or 4 days max. Is that accurate? Yeah, fast pass. There's no shortcuts. There's no fast pass in recovery. I think there's a chapter, a piece of my book on shortcuts. That doesn't work very good. It's like a farmer trying to cram. We've talked about this before. Farmers can't cram, right? They're like, well, harvest time is tomorrow, so I think I'll plant some seeds, right? It doesn't work that way. And neither does recovery. A good map also gives somebody confidence even before they start. If you look at those directions and they seem simple and they seem to have clarity, it's kind of a confidence builder for somebody to go, I think I can do that. I can kind of see how this works. When I came into recovery, I had no clue what I was doing. How many of you felt overwhelmed when you came into recovery, like right off the bat? It just felt overwhelming. 2 of you. Well, that's great. The rest of you had to figure it out right away. All right. Kat's going to come talk about liars in a little bit. We're going to have a training on lying. Depending on the clarity and the simplicity of the directions, a roadmap can make us feel confident that we can go and do the thing that we're being asked to do and get there pretty somewhat in a way that doesn't have too many left and right turns that lead us off into la-la land. I mean, it does happen, and we talk about that as far as relapse, and there will be times when, we lose our way and lose directions, but that roadmap can always pull us back into a place where we know that we are on the right road. So that's what I want for every person who's introduced to Recovery Alive. I want them to feel like I know where I'm going, and I know how to get there, okay? Those are the 2 things I really want people to get a hold of. I know where I'm going, and I know how to get there. Now, I want all of you volunteers and leaders to be able to provide a clear and simple roadmap. This is not just for me to teach you. There's going to be things I'm just going to keep drilling and drilling and drilling because I don't want to just teach you this. I want you to be able to repeat it to some extent. Okay? I want you to be able to share this with anybody who walks in there. And I want you to take responsibility that you are the people to share this. Not me, not Kat, not Tasha, not Brian. I need you each to go like, oh, yeah, I know. You see somebody wide-eyed coming in this door, coming in the kids' department, coming in Young and Alive or Adventures Alive, and they just look like they look lost because they are. In so many ways they're lost, right? We're going to help them find the way, the truth, and the life. That's what we're about. Amen? All right, so I gave you 4 kinds of maps to follow as we started our training, our university today. Some of you received confusing roadmaps. Very confusing on purpose. Some of you got the weird riddles, right? This was fun for me to write, by the way, and I knew who got what. I'm like, this is awesome, right? These roadmaps led to frustration, loss of confidence, and ultimately, it didn't get you to where X marks the spot. Some of you received incomplete roadmaps. These roadmaps led to hopelessness, inaction, and ultimately will make you want to just simply quit. Just makes you want to quit. I wrote this before all this happened because I know what a bad roadmap can do. Some of you received roadmaps that were just simply plain old wrong. This table, Eric's table, they were just like, this ain't right. This is not the right, this doesn't look anything like this building at all. But at one table, you had the right roadmap, and guess what? If you have the right roadmap, you will find what you're looking for. I knew that would happen. You're like, well, of course. I knew it would happen, but in recovery, I feel like I've missed that a little bit. The people leave here, and I get hurt and frustrated when somebody comes in these doors. Isn't it sad when somebody comes to recovery and they don't come back? Isn't that just heartbreaking because we have so much for them? But if I haven't given them a good roadmap, and we're going to go over this is the roadmap. If we don't have a good roadmap to show them, then a lot of times they're just going to be like, I don't know how to do it. I don't have anybody to help me do it. It doesn't make any sense to me. All these people seem like they've already figured it out, and they're going to walk away because they can't see a way forward. Our newcomers deserve a simple, clear roadmap to how to do recovery at Recovery Alive. And it's my fault. I've been remiss to do this. The first thing to know is that recovery is not necessarily a destination, right? Recovery is not necessarily a destination. We did see last night people graduate process group. Wasn't that awesome to see people graduate process group? So did they arrive? Is that the finish line? No, so even somebody who's a newcomer, they see that and they say, is that the finish line? Once I finish the process group, am I done? Have I figured it out? And we're all like, yeah, right. But at the same time, That's confusing to somebody who really doesn't know how recovery works, right? They'll say, well, why not? Why wouldn't that be the finish line? Because graduation means I'm done with something, right? But for us, we've got to help them understand that recovery is a constant work. We saw people getting chips, right? Somebody got a 30-day and somebody got a 37-year, right? Now, does the 30-day say I crossed the finish line? No. Does a 37-year person say no? I'm done, no more? No, because she's here today, right? And so it's a constant work, but people don't understand it because we're not sharing what the finish line looks like. Here's the finish line. Paul wrote in his letter to Philippians, I don't mean to say that I have already achieved these things. That's the NLT. The NIV says, not that I've attained this yet or that I've already reached perfection, but I press on to possess that perfection for which Jesus Christ first possessed me. Dear brothers and sisters, I have not achieved it, but I focus on this one thing, forgetting the past, looking forward to what lies ahead. I press on to reach the end of the race to receive the heavenly prize. Are you guys pushing on to the heavenly prize for which God through Jesus is calling us? The finish line is heaven. Amen? The finish line is heaven when we come before Jesus and we look into that wonderful face and he says, well done, my good and faithful servant. Welcome to your rest. We can rest when we're dead, people. All right, no, that's not quite what I'm saying, but to some extent, right? The finish line is heaven. Let us all who are spiritually mature agree on these things. If you disagree on some point, I believe God will make it plain to you, but we must hold on to the progress we've already made. This scripture is so powerful in Philippians. Is he's saying, I haven't attained this yet. Paul's done some amazing things, but he knows there's more to do. There's more to do. There's more to do in him, and there's more to do in the world. There's more that Jesus wants to do inside of him, and there's more for him to help people get to as a servant of Jesus Christ. And that's what recovery is about, is the fact that that heaven is our prize. And what is it we are trying to accomplish and achieve? Here's what we're trying to accomplish and achieve. Thomas asked Jesus a question, and I want you guys to really wrap your heads around this, because this is the question newcomers are asking. This is the question maybe you're still asking. Thomas said, what is the roadmap? It could almost be translated this way. This is one of Jesus' disciples. He was called Doubting Thomas because he kind of struggled with some cynicism. He was a little cynical. And he asked this question in the NLT: how can we know the way? How can we know the way? Do you guys know the answer that Jesus gave? He said, I am the way. I am the way. What is the roadmap? Ultimately, we're going to give you guys some direction, some ways to kind of help people understand what the road to recovery is. But for all intents, for every part of what we're doing, everything that we do, Jesus is the way. He is the roadmap. Everything we do must be built around the kingdom, the economy of Jesus Christ. And so I just want you to know, whatever we're going to talk about today is completely encapsulated with the kingdom of Jesus Christ, who he is and what he desires for mankind. Not only what he wants for us, but also the fact that he's in it with us and he's empowering us to do it. So I just want to start with that Jesus says, I am the way. Jesus is the roadmap. He is the way. So when the newcomer wants to know how to get sober, how to get freedom, how to find hope, the most important thing we need to do is help them to find Jesus Christ. Amen? And once they find Jesus, the work then is to help them to grow in their relationship with Jesus. That is the roadmap, okay? Ultimately, if you guys don't remember anything else we talk about in here, there are 2 goals to Recovery Alive. 2 goals. I don't even want you to write it down. I want you to remember it right now. I want you to look at me and remember there's only 2 goals in Recovery Alive. And if I come up to any of you after this training and I go, what are the 2 goals of Recovery Alive? I want you to be able to repeat it back to me. The first goal is to bring people to Jesus. Bring them to salvation, okay? Salvation is goal number 1, is get them saved. Goal 1, if you ask anybody in this group, go up to them and say, what's goal 1? Get people saved. Get people saved, okay? That's number 1. Number 2 is get them in process groups. That's the 2 goals of Recovery Alive. If we accomplish those 2 things, that's salvation, and then that is sanctification, what we call discipleship, helping them grow in their relationship with Jesus and other people, okay? What are the 2 goals of Recovery Alive? Let me hear it. Get them and... So I'm going to walk up to you guys on Friday nights as you're doing some of your work. I'm going to say, what are the 2 goals of Recovery Alive? Get them saved, get them in process groups. That is what Recovery Alive is. Is that clear? Is that simple? But it's not easy, is it? It's not easy. But our work is to get them saved, okay? And we do that through the people, power, and process of Recovery Alive. All of what we're doing is to get them saved and get them into process groups, okay? And so I'm going to walk you through how to explain to somebody what Recovery Alive is all about. Because if we walk up to the newcomer and they're like, hey, how do I do this? We say, you got to get saved and get in a process group. Let's go. That'd be a little overwhelming, all right? Right? I mean, it's like, oh, boy. I left something in my car. I'll be right back, right? That's all you'd hear. So that's not quite how we want to do that, right? We believe the way, the road, recovery is all about these 2 goals, and we accomplish these 2 goals by connecting newcomers to the 3 P's of recovery represented on this map, on the little map. So you can take this little green map out and kind of take a look at it. Hopefully, for those of you who had confusing maps at your table, you're not looking at it going, this looks a lot like what I just couldn't find the prize with. This is something I hope that makes a little more sense, and we'll walk through it. It is really simple. It's connecting people to the 3 P's of recovery. And sometimes I wish you could make it more complicated and write this big thing out. But that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it very simple and clear. We want to get people connected to the power of God. And we do that on our Friday night power group. And that's why the power group is basically the whole square. Everything happens, kind of comes out of and works through this power group, this main session every Friday night. And Wednesday at our lunch meeting, which is growing. I mean, we're getting over 40 people on our lunch meeting. And that's exciting, man. That people on a Wednesday would come out on a Wednesday midweek and hang out at church for an hour, hour and a half. It's inspiring. And last night, I got kind of emotional as I pulled in. I was at a meeting, a really cool meeting in Lynchburg, Virginia, around Recovery Live that we're super excited about. And I pulled into the parking lot because I knew I was just, traffic was kind of crazy. I was driving back from Lynchburg, and I got here about 6:40, 6:45. And I experienced what I hear a lot of people experience is like, this is a recovery meeting? There were hundreds of cars out in the parking lot. I couldn't find a spot, and I just kind of got emotional thinking, look at what God is doing. Look at what these volunteers are doing. People are coming who wants to go somewhere on a Friday night? Who wants to go to church on a Friday night, right? And it was just so beautiful. Got to go over to the kids building and see what's going on at Adventures Alive, and these kids are just learning about Jesus, learning about pre-recovery. The teens, I went over there, they're all in their groups, man. They're in their groups, and they don't want to come out, man. They're in there for themselves, to work on themselves. And I'm just seeing that in this power group, people are being introduced to some concepts that are changing their life. Everything kind of happens around Wednesday lunch meeting power group and our Friday power group. We want to get them in the power group to one place. Everything is focused through our dinner time, right? Through our first impressions people who are just loving on them, making sure they feel comfortable, making sure that they feel connected to. getting them through the amazing testimony by Nate last night, right? That inspires us that change is possible. And then we might hear a lesson that's getting us to this place that God can change us. The whole thing filters to one place on a Friday night and a Wednesday. Do you know where that place is? The altar. We want people to get to the altar to connect to Jesus. We believe if they get to the altar, they have an opportunity to get saved, to know their Savior. If we don't get anything right and they get introduced to a higher power, their whole life is going to turn upside down. Does everybody agree with that? And so that's the work that we're trying to do right off the bat, is we're trying to get them on the card in the first place, into the power group. On the back of your card, there's an explanation of what the power group is. It says there are many on-ramps to the road to recovery, but most folks are introduced to Recovery Live through our power group. Power group is our large group experience. It's not a class. Make sure they understand that. People go, can I come anytime? Or if I come, are you going to be like in the middle of a lesson? People don't know that there are 250 people in this room on a Friday night. They're thinking, you say, hey, you want to come to my recovery group? What will they be thinking about? They're thinking about a small group, 7 or 8 people in a classroom, and somebody kind of maybe talking to them about something. They don't know what they're about to get. So we're telling them, you can come anytime. It looks a little bit like a church service, but it's a little bit rock and roll. It's just a different experience. You can just tell them that this is going to be something you've never experienced, but I'll meet you right out there in the parking lot, and we'll walk in here together, right? It can be attended at any point throughout the year and does not require sharing. The other fear that people have when they come to a recovery group is, am I going to have to hold hands and sing Kumbaya with you all, because I don't want to do that. You can kind of sit in the back and just experience it. How many of you, when you first came on a Friday night, you just wanted to kind of sit in that back chair and just kind of see what's going on? You kind of snuck in the back, right? I just want you to know there's no shame in that. That's what we want. Casey still wants to sit in the back. No, he does not. We tell people it's okay to just come in and sit in that back. That's why we have seats in the back, right? Just start in this place where you don't have to share. You just check it out. We feel like if we get them in the door, they're that much closer to a relationship with Jesus, right? And that's where we want them to be. All right, so our first engagement is to connect them to the power group. And you can tell them this is what the power group is and this is what it isn't. After the power group, they connect to people. And they do that actually throughout the entire power group experience. They're doing it at first impressions. We want to make sure. Look, I know that when you guys get here on Friday night, you haven't seen each other for a while. You're kind of excited because, these are people that you don't see all week, and you want to talk about what's going on with you. But remember the newcomer. Remember that person who's sitting in the back. They look like they don't want you to come and approach them, but they do. They look standoffish. They look like they got their arms stuck out. They have their hat down, and they don't want to be bothered, but they're there to be bothered. They're there to be engaged. They're there to be loved. Get outside your comfort zone. I love what John Baker used to say. He says, if one grenade kills all my leaders, we're doing something wrong. Because you're all in one little tight group. Get away from each other. Reach the newcomer. We want them to have lots of touches. The worst thing I could ever hear is somebody saying, and I haven't, we do a good job of this, but I came to Recovery Alive and nobody said a word to me. It's like, well, that's kind of an excuse. Well, maybe it is, but doggone it, we've got to make lots of efforts to try to touch people. I think we got a great greeting crew. I think we got some great things happening, but let's individually reach out to people. Then they have an opportunity where they're going to sit at dinner. Make sure that if you see somebody sitting all by themselves eating dinner, go sit with them. I know, again, you're with your family, you want to hang out, but man, let's look outside of ourselves and say, how do we engage that person? This is no joke. It's something that we could joke about, but I don't want to joke about it because for me, I can feel it still. I was bullied when I was in middle school, bad. And there were many times I sat alone at the lunch table. That's the most horrible feeling in the world, to walk in somewhere and know nobody wants to hang out with me. Don't make somebody sit alone when we invite them to come to dinner. That's tragic, right? Let's sit with people. Let's engage with them. And then what we want people to do is to have a point of contact at the altar. Guys pray with guys, ladies with ladies. How many times have you heard me say, I don't want anybody up here to be praying by themselves? You say, I don't know how to pray for somebody. Yes, you do. Just walk up, put your hand on a shoulder, and begin to thank God for this person who is at the altar bowing a knee. It's one of the most beautiful experiences you will ever have. If you've never done that, I want you to do it this Friday. Get outside of your comfort zone. It'll bless them. It'll bless you. Make sure that there's a point of contact that they're having with you at this altar time. And then after that altar time, we have what's called our New Beginnings group back there. It's a one-time orientation. We want everybody to start there at New Beginnings. After that power group experience, we have this one-time opportunity to take a virtual tour of our program. All right, on the back of this, it says start here. That's our New Beginnings group. I want everybody to be able to get into that group back there who is new to this program and get this roadmap described and explained to them, okay? And that's where the green card begins, is right there at New Beginnings. It says, you are here. So when a newcomer gets into that New Beginnings class in the back, they're going to get this card. Whoever is going to be doing the New Beginnings class is going to say, you ever been to the mall and you see the little star? It says, you are here. You tell them, you are here. This is where it begins, okay? And then the New Beginnings folks are going to explain that your next step is to move into next week your people groups. Now, we don't have people groups as a destination. We have a people groups as something that you're always going to continue to do. You see how it's just a constant cycle. Some of you guys are in leadership and you still go to people group. That's the way it should always be, right? Wednesday lunch meeting is when I try to get to my people group. I lead Recovery Alive, but I need Recovery Alive. You can never get to a place of leadership where you shouldn't be going to people groups. And so these are these little roundabouts. Hopefully not too as confusing as the one down at the outlets there by Starbucks. I see people out of town going like, what am I? Where am I? What happened? I've gone into the twilight zone down there, you know. Do you ever see people at that roundabout down there at the outlets by Starbucks, and they're just like stopped? They got New York plates. Tisha still is. They're just stopped in the middle of the road, and they're just shaking their heads, right? It's probably most of the time Tisha. Yes, that's sad. So we want to get people into these people groups and let them know this is a safe place. It's safe because of the boundaries. We want to explain the boundaries. We want to get into the boundaries and explain why we have boundaries, why these things are gender specific. Okay, I'm about to blow your doors off, okay? And by the way, all along the road to recovery, we emphasize the fact that you can at any point in time, the little heart right there are service opportunities. The first moment that you walk into Recovery Alive, you can start serving, right? You can work at First Impressions. You can work in the kitchen if you can deal with Tina's attitude. I should not say that because I'm so sorry, Tina. I love you. Please don't leave us. Okay. By the way, if anybody, Norma. Yes, ma'am. Let me get to the end of it, and then we'll work through it. Help me, Bill. Talk to her. Talk to her. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Oh, I get to tell. Okay, I got you. Okay, hold on. Just buckle your seatbelt, okay? Because this is another good reason. Exactly right. We've been having struggles with a lot of folks, and I do this too, where people don't know where to go, what groups to go to. I'm about to cover that here in a minute, and we're really excited about this. Some of you are probably going to have seizures and be frustrated maybe, but this is something that we're super excited about, and I believe really that God is leading us to do that. We haven't done this. In my 20 years, I've never done anything like this, but I think it's going to be pretty awesome. Before I get there, I just want to tell you that, first of all, I always want you, and Kat might share this a little bit, if somebody doesn't know where to go, don't tell them. Take them. Don't tell them. I think it's back in that back room back there somewhere. I think you take a left or a right. I don't know. Take them. You will, but by the end of this time, you should know, for crying out loud. Oh my gosh, have mercy. Don't tell them, take them, and you will know, because it's going to be simple how to get there, okay? All right, people groups. People groups need to be safe. Most importantly, the boundaries keep people safe. The boundaries are how people, keep from sharing over their limit, monopolizing conversation, interrupting each other, some of those things that kind of make group something that people don't want to keep going to. Make sure that the boundaries are kept. It's vital, vital, vital. The boundaries are the first thing that keep your group safe. Number two, the second thing that keeps your group safe is that they are same gender, okay? And we've talked about this extensively. If you're new to training, I'm just going to tell you, a lot of 13 stepping happens when we have mixed groups. Recovery Live, I guess people can find each other, make a love connection at Recovery Live, but it shouldn't be the reason why you are coming to Recovery Live. And so if you're in a group and it's guys and girls together, you can kind of have some moments of inappropriateness happening in there, and temptation. You can have a girl in there who's sharing, my husband, he stopped a long time ago, playing my favorite music and going on long walks along the beach, and thank you for letting me share. And then the guy next to her goes, look, I'm ready to share. You know what I love? I love long walks on the beach. Whew. I just thought, did you say, I'm sorry. Anyway, let me show you my playlist of music I love to listen to. You have some of the same things there, right? So, and you're laughing because it's true, because it would happen, right? So that's how we keep our groups safe. We want them to be same gender. And but here's what we're going to do with people groups. I'm going to give you the reasons why, and some of you are just going to have to, this is going to take some digesting, but it's going to make everything a lot simpler. We are going to go, what's the date, Kat? Not today, thank you. March 18th. Thank you. That's very helpful. He's like, what's today's date? No. The date that we are going to be making this transition will be March 18th. All right, so we're going to give lots of heads up about this. But we are going to non-issue specific people groups. We are moving away from issue-specific people groups, and I haven't done this in my almost 20 years of having groups, and here's why. Let me just explain this, and I think it's going to be life-changing. And I'm asking for a lot of trust. I'm asking for a lot of trust because I know a lot of these groups are very, very special to you, and you've gotten in these things, and it's kind of helped you through this time where you have other people who know specifically what you're dealing with. But I really want to introduce this idea. I want you to be patient with it, and I want you to trust us that this is going to go better, and for a whole lot of reasons. I'm going to give you 4 reasons, and then one more, kind of a 5th big one, that I think is why we really need to do non-specific, issue-specific people groups. Number 1, I believe when we go to non-issue specific people groups, let me just define that for those of you who I'm not sure what you're talking about, that every group will basically be A to Z. Every group will be A to Z. They will still be gender specific, but they are all going to be A to Z. And the first reason I want to do is I want to eliminate the idea that there's a unique solution for every single group. There's not a unique solution for purity versus alcohol issues. There's not a unique solution for somebody dealing with grief and somebody who is dealing with depression. There's not a unique solution. There are unique problems with one solution. Amen? And that's what we want to push people to, is that you have a unique struggle. What we're going to do is do a lot of training. Kat's going to do this in a minute. Training and pushing on, make sure that your sponsor has the same struggle that you have, that you have accountability partners with some of the same struggles that you have. But we don't believe that having these different issue-specific groups help people to understand that there is one solution. The second, I'm going to get out of order here, so I'm going to get to the next one. The second reason is it eliminates separation between people. Mixed groups enrich the sharing experience and say we're all in this together. Amen? It says we're all in this together. Eliminates separation between people. And the third reason is it eliminates stigma, that we're truly the same in our struggles. The fourth reason is that it eliminates identifying with our struggles. I think this is huge, is that you and I still need to confess. When I get up here and I say I struggle with codependency, I need to be able to do this. But what happens, what I've watched happen is that people who sit in the same people group every Friday night for years begin to believe that that is who they are. Every Friday night they're in the same group and they're going like, this is what I am, and we are all the same and nobody else is like us. And I think that is very, very dangerous. I think people need to believe that they are more than their struggle, that they're not their struggle, that they are a child of the living God. And I think as we begin to mix these groups together, and the person who struggles with depression listens to the person who's struggling with alcohol and say, you know what? I identify with that person. We're all in this together. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, right? All of us are weak. All of us struggle, and there is one solution. And this is the one that I think God gave me as I was driving back from Lynchburg. I feel like the Holy Spirit just hit me with this, confirming what we're doing. It came out of absolutely nowhere. I was exhausted. I'm 2 hours into my trip. There's traffic all over the place. And and again, I'm not saying I hear from God all the time, but I really felt God saying, what you're about to do is eliminate the excuse, you don't have a group for me, so I'm not coming. And that, I almost pulled over. Because I've had people ask me, do you have a group for people struggling with suicide? And I say, we don't have that. I'm not coming because you don't have that group. Do you have a group, dealing with people who are trying to specifically love their child? No, we don't have that group. You don't have what I need then. And that's a lie. It's not true. So we want people to believe that any one of these groups working the program will change your life. Amen? And here's the thing. Process groups are already non-issue specific, right? So what's the big deal? What's the big difference? Something else that we're dealing with that's a logistical issue, and it's very exciting, is that we have too many people in some rooms and not enough people in other rooms. I'm sorry, but that's a problem for us because we have people sitting on the floor. Has anybody in this room sat on the floor when you had to? Look at all these hands, guys. That's not cool. I know it's kind of exciting in a way. It's like, oh, we're so big, we're growing. We need to be able to have people feel comfortable, divided up in these rooms. So we're going to non-issue specific people groups. And what that will do, Norma, is we can simply say the guys groups are out here in the trailers. 1, 2, 3. How nice is that? Right? The ladies groups are in these rooms here in the back, and I can show you where all of the ladies groups are. How easy is that, right? Isn't that nice? It's going to be so simple. Guys, I want us to get excited about this. If you're not excited about this, I get it. Can I just tell you, I want to validate, like, these groups have meant the world to you. It's where you started talking about your alcohol problem, and it meant so much to you. You started really being able to say, hey, you get what I get in my grief, but I promise you, you're going to experience something even greater when we take away these issue-specific boundaries and everybody starts sharing with each other in a way that we haven't done before. That happens in the process groups. If you're struggling with it, come talk to me. And it's okay. We'll talk about it. We can pray about it. I'm going to tell you also, if it doesn't work, we can innovate, right? We can innovate. We can change the map, right? But guys, just be praying for this. I think it's going to make our ministry a lot stronger and a lot better. So people are going to go right into people groups. Everybody goes into a people group. Everybody's the same. The first day they're going into this first-time orientation. You are here. Then they're going into people groups. And then we're going to take them into process groups. We know what process groups are all about. Process groups are working through this 4 to 6 month process. Some of you guys go a little bit longer. I understand that. 4 to 6 month process to work through this book that we have that seems to be making a huge difference in people's lives. Now, the thing I want you guys to do is I want you to tell people you can get the material before you start a process group. If somebody can't afford a process group, I want to give it in their hands. If you want to help somebody buy a process group, that's a good connection. If people are saying, what is a process group about? I want you to be able to say, here, I'm going to show you in this book how this stuff works. I want each of you to be very familiar with how the process group works. And on the back of it, there is an explanation. Process groups are safe, same-gender, small groups that intentionally engage the 12-step process through the Recovery Live Handbook. They're offered throughout the year and require a registration process. We've made it very easy. There's a little QR code on the back of every bulletin. You can sign up there. You can go onto our Recovery Live website. You can pop in there for process groups. Make sure that you help people understand that they can get into a process group. And if they finished a process group, can they get into another one? Absolutely. That's why we have this cycle. If I've been to a process group, can I go to a people? Should I keep going to people groups? Absolutely, 100%. And can I get into service between people groups and process groups? Yes. Should I continue my church attendance? Absolutely. We have an emotional discipleship process. That's what we're doing. And then we have this spiritual discipleship process that happens to do with church, Sundays, Wednesdays, getting into Bible studies. And then if people say, hey, after a process group, can I get into leadership? What's the answer? Absolutely. After your process group is when you get into leadership. You don't get into leadership after people groups. Why? You don't know how, you don't know. I always say it's like a travel agent versus a tour guide. A travel agent can kind of tell you how to get there, but a tour guide will take you there and say, I've been there before, right? And so you can't take someone somewhere you've not been before yourself, not in an intimate, very real way. So leaders need to be able to show people, I've done it, you can do it too. The other thing is we don't need trained leaders as much as we need healed leaders. Let me say it again. We don't need trained leaders as much as we need healed leaders. I would rather have a healed leader any day of the week who doesn't quite know exactly what to do than someone who's really well trained but doesn't have their healing, right? It's a lot of pain and triggering and drama that comes when people haven't received their healing. So we help them follow this map. When they get into leadership, they don't have to go to people groups anymore, right? Wrong. They continue in their people groups. You cycle through this whole process, all of it kind of rotating around the power group. Does this map make sense to you at this point? If it doesn't, let me know. This is a continued cycle. The main thing you're telling them is there's not a destination. The road is the destination. The road to recovery is the destination. You just want them to stay on the road and to keep moving and driving down the road. 1 Corinthians 9:24 through 27. Don't you realize that in a race, everybody runs, but only one person gets the prize? Run to win. What's the prize, guys? Jesus, heaven, right? That's the prize. All athletes are disciplined in their training. If you stop running, you get out of shape, right? If you stop running, you get out of shape. We got to keep on running. Running is the destination. Moving is the destination. Recovery is the road itself. All athletes are disciplined in their training. They do it to win a prize that will fade away, but we do it for an eternal prize. There it is. Heaven is our prize. Keep on running. Keep on running. I run with purpose in every step. Don't you like he uses step, right? He was a 12-stepper, Paul was, right? I run with purpose. I'm not shadow boxing. Isn't that an interesting idea? He's not just swinging his arms randomly. He's doing it through a process. He's doing it intentionally, meaningfully. I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. Otherwise, I fear that after preaching, I might become disqualified. What's he saying there? Leaders need to what? Stay healthy. They need to keep running. Say, well, I've got it figured out now. No, you got to keep running. You see, he says, while on this earth, The goal is to reach the end of the running. No. The goal is the run itself to reach the prize, which is heaven. It's in the discipline. The goal is running the race. Recovery itself is a road. When you describe what's happening, you say, I just need to get you on the road, get you running, and keep you running because it is a life-changing experience. Don't quit. Keep moving. Keep running. Keep growing. Keep progressing. Step 12 says you can't keep it unless you what? You keep giving it away, giving it away, giving it away. This is the roadmap. I want everybody to have 4 or 5 of these things that they can share with people. In our New Beginnings group back here, people need to have this and be able to walk through it and be able to share this with folks. People need to know where they're going, not be confused, know that there's hope, know that there's change. Does this... Everybody tell me, does this make sense? Okay, let me ask you this question. What are the 2 goals of Recovery Life? Excellent. Get them saved, get them in process groups. Guys, God bless you. Thank you for letting me share. Okay, now, you ready? Do they need a break? All right, we're going to take a break until 10:25. God bless you guys. Thanks for coming. Get lots of food back there. Thank you, Tina. You don't have a bad attitude. I love you.
stay on track moving forward? Well, my name is Kat, grateful believer in Jesus. I struggle with worry and grief and keeping John on track sometimes. Hey, we're going to talk a little bit about sponsors and accountability partners and sponsees. But before we do, I want to piggyback for just a second on what John was saying about our people groups and some of these changes that are coming. And just from a logistics perspective, I know everybody's thinking, how are we going to manage this? There will be, first of all, we have an amazing group of people group leaders. They are here every Friday, making sure that these groups stay healthy. They're on board. They're a part of this change. They're a part of this process. But we're going to have a new role, if you will, and we're going to have people group hosts, men and women. And these are going to be people that are positioned accordingly over here by the doorways for the women, out here by the mobile units for the men. And their sole purpose of being there will be to welcome people, to help guide them to where they need to go. So to add on to what John was saying before in terms of knowing where to go, you won't even have to say, hey, men, head out here to one of these trailers. You're going to be able to say, talk to this person. They're here. They're here to guide you. We really, really want to lean into the take them, don't tell them. Over the next few weeks, as we work out the logistics, we'll be introducing who these folks are on a Friday night. You're going to have a face. You're going to have a name. You know exactly who is going to be here to help guide people. So I just wanted to follow that up with a little information for you. You're going to get a lot of questions from people, right? Again, like John said, we're really leaning into this team of people to lead, help answer questions, help alleviate concerns, talk people through any of the changes that we have coming up. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about sponsors, accountability partners, and sponsees. And I really want to reinforce what John said earlier about why are we talking about some of these things with you guys? Why are we talking about some of these things with people that are already leading, people that are already volunteering, right? A lot of you have a lot of recovery. Well, there's two main reasons that we're doing this. One, as he mentioned, you can't lead if you don't stay healthy. We have to be continually growing. We have to be continually improving. I do learning and development for a living. And one of the things that we consistently talk about is if you are not growing, you're moving backwards. You have to keep moving forward. So as leaders, we have to be self-aware. We have to be willing to recognize when we need to improve and grow. And then secondly, every one of you in this room, in addition to modeling everything we're talking about, your trainers, your leaders, there are hundreds of people in here on a Friday night. One person cannot speak to all of them. You're the people that are going to make these connections and that are going to help educate. Everything you learn about, hey, this is what a sponsor relationship should look like, not only are you going to model that, but you're going to have to talk somebody else through that. So that's why we lean into these topics that maybe some of them aren't brand new to you, but this is why we want to make sure we're doing these things well. So when we talk about sponsors, accountability partners, just recovery relationships in general, the first thing that we really want to focus on is why do we need to do this, right? How many people walked into recovery with the mindset and the attitude, I can do this myself? And now John's giving you a book, so now I just need this book, right? Or here's one. This is one I get from church people all the time. Well, it just takes me and God. God's with me. I'm not alone. And that's true. But let's think about in the beginning. We read Genesis. We know that God created the earth. He talks about creating Eden and how beautiful the garden was, right? And there's everything that a human being could need. There's even God, right? God is walking with Adam. This is as close to perfection on earth as we're ever going to get, right? And what does God say? It's not good to be alone. We are not designed to do this alone. One of my personal life verses is Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, one person sharpens another. We make each other better. Healthy relationships make each other better. So when you are thinking about your relationships, why you're leaning in, and when you're educating other people as to why they need to lean in, we start with the why. You've got a handout there, but there are any number of reasons that these relationships are key, but we want to start talking about 4 key components, 4 reasons that you have to have healthy recovery relationships on this journey. And these are things that you want to make sure that you can articulate and you can share with others. The first one is perspective. A good sponsor, good accountability partners do what? They offer perspective. They can help show you blind spots that you may not be able to see. My entire family's been picking on me because I got these lovely new glasses last week. Apparently, this is what happens as you get older. And I'm going to tell you, when I first went to the optometrist, he told me, frankly, how bad my eyes were and what I really needed. I thought this man was crazy. I said, he's exaggerating. It's not that bad. You know, get me some little readers from the Walgreens. When I'm staring at my phone, it'll be fine. But I let him order the glasses, and I went in there, and as soon as I put them on, I said, well, crap. I had no idea how bad my vision was until it was corrected. And that is exactly what good accountability partners and sponsors do for you. We don't know what we don't know, and we can't see what we can't see. And that perspective is key. The second thing that they bring that is extremely important is safety. You know, most of us walk in here with a lot of unsafe relationships, right? These are people that are a source of trust. They're a source of truth, right? When it comes to validating some of our experiences, we have to have that safety. The third one is rather apparent. Accountability. A good accountability partner, a good sponsor is going to bring accountability. What does that really mean? What does that really mean? Tasha, what do you call that? They're going to call you on your crap. You've got to have somebody that's going to be real with you, that's going to tell you the truth, even when it isn't what you want to hear. That accountability is critical to a healthy recovery process. And your fourth piece is support. They're going to pray for you. They're going to encourage you. They're going to be there. Simply having someone that you can count on to be there, to walk you through the process. These are your whys. You have to understand them. You have to embrace them. You have to believe them if you're going to build strong recovery relationships, and if you're going to help others do the same. And once you understand why you need these relationships, the next question you're going to get from people, well, what's the difference? In reality, what is an accountability partner? What is a sponsor? And some of you know this. Some of you have been through this, but can you articulate it? When you're looking for a sponsor, we're looking for someone that's further along than we are, further along in that recovery walk, further along in their relationship with God. But I'll go even further and say, you want someone who has something that you want. You want someone that when you look at their life, when you look at their relationship with Jesus, when you look at their relationship with others, it has that fruit. They are bearing fruit you want to see in your life. Are they talking or are they walking? And here's another piece that, John alluded to that we haven't really emphasized in the past, but this is where that same struggle alignment really comes into play. This is where an understanding of where you're coming from and that background really comes into play. Tisha and I had a fantastic conversation about this the other night. And the example she used is, sometimes if you're struggling with addiction and you've walked in these doors, I need to know how you stayed sober for the last 5 minutes. That's where these relationships come in. That's why we're in people groups with a whole bunch of different folks, and we're listening. We're listening to what people are sharing, what they struggle with, and we're making those connections. Your accountability partner, on the other hand, that's somebody who's in the same place you are in your recovery process, right? This is somebody who's walking with you. Now, I'm using the singular, but let's be real. You should have multiple accountability partners. There's an S on that. These are people that are committed to working their recovery as you work yours. While not required, I would also recommend lean into people that have similar struggles, similar backgrounds, similar experiences, people that can share with you, you can share with them, and you're learning from each other. And I know you guys, you know the basics. A lot of you in here are accountability partners, you have sponsors. But I really want to make sure you understand when you're looking at your relationships, go back and evaluate. Are my relationships healthy? Do I need additional healthy relationships? And how could I help a newcomer start to build these healthy relationships? We're going to spend the majority of our time on the next page. Expectations. Every single time somebody has come to me with a struggle about a recovery relationship, it has been because of unclear, unmet expectations. Every time. If you want to create and maintain healthy relationships between sponsors, sponsees, with your accountability partners, you have to be committed to setting and meeting expectations. At the very beginning, you sit down, you have a conversation. If they're not maintained, if the relationship doesn't stay healthy, then you don't continue. And let me be clear as we kind of go through these are sort of your baseline. These are expectations that you want to set in general. That doesn't mean that you may not have additional expectations, right, based on that specific relationship. But these are the key things that you need to make sure that you're setting. It's long. It's a lot. It's intended to be. I think what happens a lot of times is we come in, we get started. What are we supposed to do? I'm going to go to this group. I'm going to work these steps. I'm getting up on step 4, and somebody said I have to have a sponsor. I'm not real sure what that means, but I think they're going to listen to my inventory. Hey, will you be my sponsor? I just need somebody to listen to my inventory. And that's it. That's not a relationship. That's not what we're trying to do here. So let's talk about these expectations. When I sit down, I like to start with, what is this not? Let's be real clear. What is not going to happen here? And that's what we start with. Sponsors and accountability partners do not. They do not work your recovery for you or fix you. Phrase I use often is, I will not work your recovery harder than you do. I can't fix you. I am not Jesus. Sponsors and accountability partners do not force you to maintain a relationship with them. I will not chase you across this county. I will love you and I will pray for you while you run, but I will not chase you. Sponsors and accountability partners do not take responsibility for your actions and choices. They're going to try to guide you, pray for you, hold you accountable, share with you. What you do with that and how you use that is ultimately going to belong to you. And here is a big one. Sponsors and accountability partners do not act as a substitute to working the recovery process. They're not counselors. They're not therapists. You cannot tell me, I don't need to go on Friday nights. I don't need to get in a process group because I talk to my sponsor once a week. Even if, I'll go so far, even if, Brian will attest to this, your sponsor is John Eklund, it is not a replacement for working the recovery process. So what is it? What do we commit to? The rest of this is written in first person as we're saying this, because this is what we're committing to if we step into these relationships. So when you sit down with someone and we're intentionally agreeing to be accountability partners, what are we agreeing to do? Well, as accountability partners, we will pray for each other, encourage each other. We're going to support one another. We're going to share openly and honestly. We're going to hold each other accountable to working the 12 steps. Will I see you Friday night? Didn't see you in group last week. How you doing? You know what? We both decided we're going to sign up for that process group tonight. We walk together and we hold each other accountable. We will communicate regularly. We do not wait for an emergency to pick up the phone. We build that relationship as we go. And then here's the big one for accountability partners. We will set healthy boundaries with each other. We are walking together. We are not carrying each other. We are walking together. And we will speak biblical truth at all times when we communicate with each other. That's it. That is what we're agreeing to. As leaders and volunteers, every one of you should be evaluating your accountability relationships. Is this happening? Because if it's not, you need to sit down and have some conversations. And when someone comes to you and requests this type of relationship, you need to be setting these expectations. This is how we get the relationships that impact our recovery. We have the same thing for sponsors and sponsees. This gets a little more in depth. So as a sponsor, what will I do? I will pray for you, I'll encourage you, and I'll support you. I'm going to be a safe person who's going to listen to you. I'm going to provide guidance and insight based on my recovery journey, based on my biblical knowledge. Again, not as a counselor, right? Not as a therapist. I'm sharing with you what I've learned walking this road. I'm going to hold you accountable to the recovery process. You said your process group is coming up on that inventory. How's that going? When are we going to sit down and have a discussion about that amends letter you've been working on? I'm going to be available to meet with you. Hear this, please, for scheduled meetings. Sponsors are not at your beck and call. Believe it or not, these are human beings. They sleep, they eat, they might even go to work. We're going to need to schedule that. Here's something that we need to think about before we make a commitment to be anyone's sponsor. I will continue to work my recovery. I'm going to keep working the 12 steps. What did John say earlier? We got to have healthy leaders. You can do all the trainings in the world, but if you're not staying healthy, you can't sponsor anybody. And I will uphold the boundaries of recovery alive. And if I can't guide you properly, if you bring something to me that is well outside the range of what I can handle, I will find a safe person. That is what I will commit to you as a sponsor. But as a sponsee, what do you bring to the table? You're going to have to commit to working those 12 steps. You're going to have to commit to showing up. Power group, people group, process group. And again, this is a minimum, right? With some of your relationships, counseling may be something, right? That's a part of the recovery process that there's a commitment to. I'm going to commit as a sponsee to daily prayer and reading God's word. I'm going to commit to sharing honestly, openly and regularly. Nobody can speak into your life if you give them that little glimpse of it. I'm going to be open to learning and allowing my sponsor to speak in my life and share hard truths, because we all love that. I'm going to go so far as to say, if your sponsor hasn't made you mad at least one time, they are not doing their job. If your sponsor always tells you what you want to hear, you do not have a sponsor. You do not have a sponsor. That's a good point, Tasha. You have a lovely encourager, but you do not have a sponsor. You're going to need to find one of those. Every one of us needs that in our lives. We need people that are going to be real with us. And as a sponsee, if you want this to work, you have to be willing to hear that. Here's another big one. As a sponsee, I will take responsibility for connecting with my sponsor. I'm going to check in weekly. I'm going to schedule those meetings. I'm going to ask. And I'm going to say something about these weekly check-ins that if you have not set up this relationship in advance, if you've not gotten to know someone, shared about yourself, if you've not built this bond, if you've not built this trust, and then a crisis happens, you won't pick up the phone. You've got to build the relationship before you need it. You can't wait till you need it. What, are you going to wait till the ship's going down and then start running around looking to build a lifeboat? That does not work. You got to have all this in place before you need it. Here's another one, and I don't know many people that have this, but I really want to lean into this one. I will develop a crisis plan and build my lifelines. What does that mean? You got a page in your handbook for Lifelines. That means I have a conversation with my sponsor. When are they available? Who else is on my list if they don't answer the phone? What tools do I have if nobody answers the phone? I love every person I sponsor, and every one of them knows if you call me at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're on your own. It's not that I don't love you. My body will not physically wake up to help you. You're going to have to come set my house on fire. So what are you going to do? Who else is on that list? What are your safety tools? Write it down. If you're currently sponsoring someone right now and you guys haven't had this conversation, that's the next conversation you need to have. What is your crisis plan? And then this last one, she is not here, but this came from the lovely Tina Boykin, and I love it. I had to write this down. Because to me, this speaks to the ownership that you take for this relationship. It's I will recognize when my life is unmanageable and when I need to seek guidance. So here's what I want everybody to do. You're not going to do it right now. The last little section here talks about, am I ready? Whether you're considering a new relationship, whether you're evaluating current relationships, whether you are having conversations with others, right, about whether or not they're ready. We have people ask us this all the time. Well, such and such asked me to be my sponsor. I don't know if I'm ready to be a sponsor. Should I be a sponsor? Do you have to do some sort of training for that? Like, what do I need to do for that? This is your checklist. These are the things you need to be able to ask yourself. These are the things you need to be able to answer for yourself. And if you can answer yes, you're ready. Step out. Serve someone else in that way. If the answer is not yet, what does that mean? That's your next step. That's your focus area. No is not an option on here, right? There is no no. There is yes or not yet. So if it's not yet, that's the area of growth for you. That's your next step to lean into. We cannot do this alone. Every one of us in this room we have to be the model for healthy recovery relationships. And we have to help the 300 and 400 people that come into this building every Friday learn to grow these recovery relationships. As we close, I wanted to ask Brian to come up here and share a little bit. And I really wanted to leave you guys, we talked, we had a checklist, do this, do that, but I really wanted to leave you guys with a vision of what this looks like. How does it work when it really works?
Hello, my name is Brian, like she said, and my struggle was once alcohol and drug abuse. Hey, and maybe some OCD. What's up with this thing? There we go. So, first off, I just want to say, I was in preparation for this thing. I was preparing a lot. So this morning while I was brushing my teeth, I asked Catherine, I said, what am I supposed to do today? And she's like, we've been over this. I've told you this. But then I go back to John, so if it's not good, I'm going to throw some off on him too. Past couple of times I did my story or whatnot, or taught or whatever it is we do. Anyway, so he's like, don't use notes, just get up there and wing it. Just get up there and do it. So I'm taking a page out of your book. I'm just going to do it. So, far as recovery, and she's talking about sponsors and accountability partners and all that stuff, they're talking about road maps and maps and all that sort of thing, and I'm not going to talk about maps because I have no sense of direction and I know zero about a map. I'm in the right time of technology because I love a GPS and I love the map thing on my phone. It's super simple. I need to go somewhere, I just hit go and I'm going. I can drive like a fool, but I have no direction, zero. I probably could have done NASCAR, but all they do is circles. So I would have been right there, good to go. So I kind of want to relate it to them kind of being as tools, and I'm sure some of you are going to be like, yeah, my sponsor or accountability partner is definitely a tool, but but anyway, no. So I'm a car guy, so I work on cars, I do cars, so that's what we're going with. That's what I know. So I'm going to relate it and kind of try to walk you through me and my process or whatever and how I found how it works and how it didn't work, because for a long time it didn't work. So to begin with, let's rewind 10 years ago. I get laid off of work, right? I'll go from sitting at a desk to nothing. I have nothing. I don't have a job. So what do? I can't find a job. It was when the economy was bad, 2010. So the only thing I knew to do was get a bucket and some soap. I knew how to wash a car. I knew how to detail a car. My dad taught me that when I was growing up. But that was the bare minimum, right? That was the bare, just nothing. I mean, it was nothing. It was just enough to get me started. But then I started putting in the hard work, and I started putting in the time, and I started adding to that. And I started getting more things. I added a pressure washer. I added a trailer. I added nicer vacuum. I was doing detailing basically to begin with, and then I added a carpet shampooer. So I'm adding all these different tools, right? So it makes my job easier, and it makes my job more efficient. It makes it quicker. It makes my life easier. It makes my life better. The end result for my customers is better. They're happier. They get a better job. So in saying all that, I now have at least a multi-$1,000 business. So I mean, I'm doing pretty good. So, but now I have a shop, and my shop's full of tools. I have toolboxes on top of toolboxes. Like, you walk in there, I got boxes everywhere, literally. Tools on top of tools. I got a huge paint booth. I have all these things, And now when things come at me, same way with recovery, I have all those tools. I've got tons of tools at my disposal. And when problems come at me, they don't scare me anymore. I know what to do. I know how to handle them. I know what next steps I need to take. Is it intimidating sometimes? Sure. I do a lot of collision repairs. We all know if a car hits something else running 55 miles an hour, it's probably going to do a whole lot of damage as opposed to Granny backing into it and putting a little ding in the door. You know what I mean? It's two different ball games. You got to have different tools. So that's kind of how sponsors and accountability partners are. I would kind of relate the accountability partners to, let's say there's some things I don't know how to do, but I know I have the people in place that do know how to do it because they know other things that I don't know. So in other words, if a car comes in and the frame's damaged or the frame's bent, I don't have the tools to take care of that, but guess what? I'm connected now. I've got people that I can call on that know how to straighten that frame. They know how to measure all that stuff out and get it straight, and then they're going to get it back to me, and I'm going to finish it up, and I'm going to get it where it needs to be. So I've got those things in place to help me because, like I said, it's all about connections, and it's all about putting the right things in place to keep you in your recovery and keep you on your walk in your process. So I know when I first started out in recovery, I just had that wash bucket. So guess what? I relapsed a lot. I messed up a lot. I came in here drunk a lot, believe it or not. I even started a process group. I was coming in there just relapse after relapse, admitting it, telling them all I had was a wash bucket. I didn't know what to do with it. A wash bucket ain't gonna fix a wrecked car. It's not gonna do it. You can't wash it off. It's not gonna fix it. So we keep moving forward and we keep learning the tools, we keep showing up, and but again, I want to emphasize that too. We got to put in the work. I think a lot of people fail and a lot of people don't get what they're looking out of it because they just do not put in the work. They don't take it serious and they're not doing what it takes to get that job done. I had to put in a crap ton of work and a lot of effort to go from a bucket to a shop, period. It wasn't easy. So anyway, times that didn't work was when I didn't have my tools, so I didn't know what to even do. So I would relapse. Then as I gathered the tools, I said, okay, well, here's things I need to do so that I don't relapse. So then I started getting more time under my belt. I started getting more stints of sobriety, right? So I think a lot of times, too, I would like to throw that out there. I went for 6 months, and I had tools. I had some tools in my tool belt. I knew what to do. I didn't want to. I chose not to because I made up my mind that this is what I want to do, and I can't blame anybody else but myself. I had made my mind up I was going to drink that night. My kid was in the hospital. Like I said, I made it 6 months. We went through some hard times with her, and I know most of you heard the story, but I'd already planned my day out, my night. I knew what I was going to do, and I did it. Even though I had the tools in place, I didn't use them. I chose not to use them. I chose to leave them in the toolbox. So when it does work, and yeah, there was tons of times for relapse. And like I said, I had the tools, didn't use them, didn't get them out, didn't do what I need to do. But it does work. And an example of that was being at home, and I think everything was just set up. It was like John said it. He said, man, that was just a straight trap. If there's ever been a trap set, that was one of them. So my wife hadn't been out of town in probably, 5 years because of me, believe it or not. When she left, bad things happened. I have to be supervised, guys. Have you ever seen the little kids on the leashes and their mom and dad's walking around? They got them on a leash. That's me. Brian needs to be on a leash, and I'm okay with that. I know my place. So, where them pants at, Rich? Why don't you talk about some pants? He's like, what? You're paying attention, man. Come on. Catherine's got them. I know. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Hellcat, orange. It's in Florida. Just saying. But anyway, she goes out of town, and like I said, it was set up for complete failure. I don't even think the kids were there. I can't remember. I was even sober. I can't even remember if my kids were there. But anyway, did yard work all day, hot, in the yard, cutting grass and weed eating. And we've got basically 20 acres, so it's a lot. I mean, it wasn't a small task. It was an all-day job thing. And I was like, I had to get something out of the garage at my father-in-law's house, and I don't even remember now what it was. It doesn't matter. But I went over there and then did what I had to do in the shop, and then I was like, I'm going to get a cold drink, just a cold soda. And I opened the mini fridge. He's got a mini fridge in there, and I opened it up, and it was like sun rays of heaven. I don't know what you want to call it. It was just like, and it was, it was just like beer and liquor, just full, stocked, completely stocked. And I'm standing there. Now I have a decision to make, right? It's in my face. I have a choice to make. Do I get my tools out of the toolbox and deal with my problem? Or do I leave them there and do what I want to do? Because I wanted to. My mouth was watering. I was drooling. Like, it's crazy how that addiction can have that effect on your body. But I was literally like a dog salivating over a chicken leg, man. I was like, I want what's in this refrigerator. I wanted it. And my body still wants it and craves it. That's why I'm here every Friday night doing what I do. And so I take a bottle of liquor out, and I take the top off. Stuff's real, y'all. And I smelled it. Everything in me wanted it. But I took out my tool, which was my phone, and I took a picture, and I sent it to him. Regardless, I wasn't expecting an immediate reply. I didn't want that, didn't need it. It's like she said, we're people, we have things to do, we got families. But I knew if I sent that picture, I was immediately going to be held accountable, period. He had the picture, he had the proof, he would know. Put the lid back on, I stuck it in, and I walked out. And then, believe it or not, I went and sat down on a ramp of my shed. I don't know why I sat there. I just sat there in disbelief. And I cried like a baby, believe it or not. Believe it or not. The allergies were bad that day. But anyway, he ended up shortly thereafter giving me a call, and he's like, dude, what the crap, what are you doing? What's going on? So I had to explain it to him. But that's part of having the tools in place, guys. I knew if I didn't send somebody that picture and I didn't do it right then, Brian was going to mess up. And Brian was going to mess up big. And we're talking with 5 years basically of sobriety. I was this close to giving it up. But from everything that I was taught here and everything that I had from being here, I was able to just, nope, we're not going back to that. We're not doing that. So that's what this is all about. That's what sponsors are all about. That's what having the correct tools is all about, guys. But guess what? We have got to use them. We got to take them out of the box. We got to come to the programs. We got to come to the trainings. And we have to learn how to use them, right? We got to learn how to use them, and we got to be willing to take them out and use them. That's what they're there for. So, yeah, with that, it's about knowing, again, what we have, what tools we have, being connected with the right people, and utilizing those tools and those right people. Thanks for letting me share.
So we just talked about having a strong recovery network. So the next question is, how do you do that? You have to meet people. So an important part of a successful recovery process means surrounding ourselves with safe and supportive people. We've learned today how people groups help connect us with others. And we've also learned how to develop productive accountability partner and sponsor-sponsee relationships. So to do this, we have to start meeting people and learning more about them. Yeah, so we're fixing to let you do a little activity. So in your packet, you have a worksheet called Building Your Recovery Network. So pull that out. For the next 25 minutes, we're going to ask you to get up and meet 3 people. And it has to be same, Casey is singing over here. It has to be same gender people, and it has to be somebody that you don't know or don't know well. And I want you to take your worksheets with you, and it's going to ask, there's a few questions on there to ask each person. What is their name? What brought you to recovery? What is your primary area of recovery? And where are you currently in your recovery journey? So when it gets close to your 25 minutes, we'll let you know we'll round you back up, and then that's it. So you guys go do this thing, get out of your comfort zone, and make you some new friends today.
been sitting with, hanging out with. It's not a one-time conversation. This is the start of a conversation. And maybe if you've been online, you've been able to maybe chat with somebody and do some recovery work. You know, a lot of the recovery that we do is organic. It's in those dinner meetings that we just sit down and have dinner with people. It's through the week having coffee. It's on those phone conversations with the sponsor accountability partners in the cafe time after your recovery meeting. So stay connected. Isolation is a killer. How many of you, isolation is a killer for you? You know it, man. Isolate and you're in big trouble. The devil loves to get us separated from each other. So what we're going to do now is we're going to close up our main time here together. And the next session that we're going to do, is our process group training for those who want to lead a process group. So if you are interested, you don't have to do it like next month, but if at any point in time you're like, yeah, I would love to lead a process group, you would benefit greatly to stick around. For the rest of you all who are like, yeah, I'm not quite there yet, you guys have blessed us greatly. We're glad that you guys are here. And you don't have to stick around for this training. You guys can cut out, but I think everybody could use this training, and I would hope every person that's in this room would eventually lead a process group. So I want to let you guys know that it took a lot of work to get this together. I just want to thank Tina. Can we thank Tina for the great food and her team, always? I just want to say something about Tina. Her favorite thing on earth is to work that ice cream machine. I think that's her favorite. No, here's what happened is like I had this vision from God that we were supposed to have an ice cream machine, and she said, you clean it, is about what she said. You clean it, I'll buy it. And I lied to her and told her I would, which now we have an ice cream machine. If you have any love in your heart and want to do some service, that would be a great place to plug in, is to help Tina clean the ice cream machine. Also want to thank Tasha and all the work that was done. Did you like the Monsters University theme and all that stuff? That was pretty cool. I want to thank Kat is our leadership and development trainer, and she is put just tons of work into this stuff. She has asked me to double her pay. I told her I'd triple it. And so she's getting a raise. She was making $0. I tripled that. My multiplication skills say she now makes $0. So I'm just really grateful for Kat. Can we give it up for Kat and Brian and all the work they do and all of the work you guys do? I could just go around table to table how much work you guys put in. Hasn't the worship been amazing lately? The worship team's been killing it. Just all of the First Impressions team and what those guys do. If you don't know where to serve, plug in one of these areas: the kitchen, the First Impressions team greeting people. We need help with people groups, process groups. Get plugged in. I just want to say this to kind of wrap up the main session, is that I remember when Brian called me, and have you ever had somebody that you connect with and they're so devastated, and it comes out of nowhere and you're just like, what is going on? Like, what's happening? Did somebody die? It's kind of that feeling. I kind of knew what was going on. And all I thought was like, I just told Brian this, is I don't think I've ever been more proud of a human being in my whole life, that this is how he felt about sin. This is how he felt about his addiction, is that he was desperate. He would do anything it took to move in another direction and change. And that's what it takes. I couldn't help thinking of Bill W., who said, all it takes to get sober is what? An honest desire to stop drinking. Man, I see a whole lot of people who have just an honest desire to change your own life and to see other people's lives changed. So thank you guys so much for being here, for what you're doing, and just love you guys. We're going to do our process group training now. Where's Kat? Are you ready to do this thing? She's taking her sweet time. I don't, praying, really? Okay, I guess so. I'll do that. I think we were thinking that some of you would maybe want to kind of cut out, but it's cool if you stick around. I want to pray over you guys and just thank you for coming. Father, thank you so much for each man and woman that's here and the commitment. Think about some have to find childcare. Some of them have to rearrange their schedules, their work schedules to be here Fridays and Wednesdays and now on a Saturday morning. God, I'm asking, would you just bless them? Would you just bless them for their obedience? Bless them for their service. Help them to know that you are well pleased today. Because the whole reason we're here is to love you. Love you. You say, those who love me, obey me. And they're just following in obedience, saying yes to you because you said yes to them. We love you. We praise you. In Jesus' name we say, amen. I'm going to have Kat come on up here. And again, God bless you guys. Thank you guys so much for coming. And if you want to hang out and do the process group thing, then do it up. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, let's give it for Kat Rayner.
Full disclosure, I forgot we didn't print these out, so I'm a little short of breath as I was running around trying to do this. Brian, would you please pass these out? Tasha is printing more. Thank you, Casey. Oh, for the love. Okay. We're going to talk about process group leadership. Process group leadership. So we talked about the roadmap, right, when we came in. Getting folks in a process group is one of our main two purposes behind Recovery Live. The only way that we can do this, the only way that we can have healthy process groups is if we have healthy leaders. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about. I'm going to go ahead and throw out there, I know some of us have had 12 steps in AA. Some of us have had a 12-step background in CR. Some of you have done process groups with RA. That's totally okay. All of these experiences are relevant. All of us have found healing in those. But moving forward, we want to make sure that we're building up a consistent experience for people that walk through a Recovery Alive process group. That is our ultimate goal. Tasha's printing us some more of these, and they'll get them passed out to you. But this is what we're going to walk through today. The first thing that I want to talk about are the leadership requirements. At its core, biblical leadership is servant leadership. It is a commitment to serve others. Anyone that is walking into a leadership position because they want to lead others is not ready. If someone comes up to me and says, God is telling me that I need to lead other people, I said, no, he's not. Leadership is serving other people. There's nothing easy about facilitating and walking people through the 12-step process. If you're not doing this because God has laid this on your heart, it's going to wear you down. So we're serving. We're here to serve each other. And in order to do that, we have to make sure that we are healthy. So we're going to go through quickly what the requirements for a leader are. And listen, if you don't, as we walk through this, if you say, wait a minute, I haven't hit that milestone yet, that's okay. This is a goal. This is what you're working toward. The first one is you have to sign and uphold the leadership commitment. Many, many, many of you in this room have done that. And essentially what that says is I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. My walk is going to match my talk. People can look at me as a model of what recovery looks like, what a Christian looks like. We're going to hold you accountable to that. You have to have completed a process group or a step study or an AA 12-step program. You have to have walked through the 12 steps. You can't lead somebody somewhere you haven't been. So you've got to walk through the 12 steps. If you're sitting in the room right now and you're in a process group, this is exactly where you need to be, because when you get done, what do you need to do? That's right. Then you're ready to lead. So you're exactly in the right place. You need to have a year of, we're going to say sobriety. Better word is recovery, right? In your area of struggle. You need to have completed this. You need to have done this training. We need to have had this conversation. You need to talk to your sponsor about whether or not you're ready to lead. If you don't have a sponsor, that's a real question. If you don't have a sponsor, that's your first step. That's your on your to-do list. That's right. And if you don't use your sponsor, you don't have one. All process groups are going to have 2 qualified leaders. Why do we have 2 leaders in the room? Accountability, safety, support. I don't know about you guys. I'm not a robot. I get sick sometimes, right? Just logistics. Every process group is going to have 2 qualified leaders. And this is a bullet point some of you guys have never heard of before. This is something new for us. All process groups will have a process group coach. Look, we're growing. We're growing a whole lot quicker than I think any of us actually anticipated. I can't talk to everybody. Brian can't talk to everybody. John can't talk to everybody. But every group needs support. Every group of leaders needs someone following up saying, how are you doing? Everybody needs somebody to come alongside of them and say, what are you running into? How can I help you with this struggle? Answering questions, making sure you keep that group healthy. So we have a group of individuals that have committed to being process group coaches. These are people that are committed to the process. They've done the process. They're going to make themselves available to every one of the leaders that they're assigned to walk them through this process. I want to introduce them. Are they here? Stand up. So we got the Witters, Franklin, Crystal. Where are Heather and Daniel? Heather and Daniel. And then where are my pieces? My pieces. These are going to be your process group coaches. If you lead a process group, one of these individuals is going to be aligned with you, and they are going to coach you. They're going to walk with you. They're going to support you through the entire process to make sure you have everything that you need. And they're the first ones doing this, so they're our guinea pigs. Everybody give them a round of applause and thank them for their willingness here. Thank you, guys. One of the things we want to emphasize when we talk about process groups, any group really, group safety. At the end of the day, this is the most important thing. This is why this is the first thing that I lean into. Your responsibility as a group leader is not to fix everybody in this room. You are not responsible for whether or not any of these people in your group choose to lean into the 12 steps. You cannot fix these people. What you are responsible for is ensuring that that group is safe and healthy. That's it. And we've told you how to do it. We've given you the boundaries. You don't have to make anything up. You don't have to know anything special. As a process group leader, if you do nothing more than enforce the boundaries, you've done the most important thing. You've got to uphold the boundaries. You've got to live it. You got to walk it out. You got to model it. You got to uphold them. We know the boundaries, right? We read them, right, on Friday nights. Everybody in this room has heard them. But the most common question that we get over and over again is, what do I do if they're violated? What do I do if someone breaks the boundary? It was a while back, we used to have, in some of the older material, there was a section of training. It was called Group Dynamics. It was about this big. And it was paragraph after paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. If this happens, do this. If this happens, do this. If this condition exists, then you're going to want to do this. Guys, I can't tell you every possible thing that could happen in a group of people. We are people. As soon as I tell you that I have given you an exhaustive list, somebody's going to come up with something we have not thought about it. I can't tell you that. I cannot give you a list of everything that's going to happen and exactly what you should do. This is why you have to be healthy. This is why you have to be a strong Christian. This is why you have to have progressed in your recovery, because what you're going to be asked to do as a leader is use discernment. We are going to ask you to lean into those boundaries, lean into your process group coaches, and use discernment. And let me tell you what I mean by that. So there's two big pieces here when we start talking about boundaries. The first one, you guys have heard this before, right? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's a whole lot easier to set expectations up front. We talked about those in those other relationships, right? Than it is to come swooping behind when we've already let things go off the rails. And that means emphasizing those boundaries up front every time. That means making sure that if people don't understand them, we explain them. Right? It's really easy, I think, and really tempting for us to get to the short version pretty quickly. Go back and explain this as often as you have to. Set expectations up front. And then what happens when something happens? You know, a lot of times it's difficult to figure out, okay, is somebody pushing or have they completely violated this boundary? You know, is this one of those things where they're on the edge, or have they taken a swan dive over it, right? How serious is this? So I like to use a litmus test. Does everybody remember a high school science class? You'd have your little paper, you stick it in, and depending on what color it was, you knew if it was an acid or a base, right? So a litmus test is simply a single factor test that helps you make your decision. So anytime you're wondering, oh, do we have an issue here? Do we have a boundary being broken? Do I say something? Do I sit quietly? What do I do with this? I want you to ask yourself this question. Is it going to damage the group, a person, or this ministry if I don't enforce this boundary immediately? That's the only question you have to answer. It's the only question you have to answer. If the answer is no, you can wait. Always correct in private, praise in public when possible. Always. So if the answer is no, this isn't the best decision they made. I'm going to have to pull this person aside afterwards and have a loving conversation. But it's not necessary for me to do anything publicly. You're good. If the answer is yes, someone is going to be hurt. There is damage that's being done. You have to speak up. You got to stop it in the moment. And this is where your discernment comes in. I don't need to give you every single possible thing that could happen. Ask yourself this question. If you ask and answer that question, if you use that to determine if I speak up now or if I address later, your group will stay safe. Anytime there is a question, if you're not sure, these are what your coaches are for. Come to them. Come to me. Come to Brian. We're going to come back to you over and over and over again. We're going to ask you about Matthew 18, Matthew 18, Matthew 18. Did you talk to the person? If you couldn't resolve it that way, did you bring in your process group coach? If you couldn't resolve it that way, did you come to us? Before I go any further, because I know this is a big thing that just over and over again people come back to, are there questions about boundaries? Are there questions about enforcing the boundaries in that way? Does that question make sense to everybody in the room? This is another reason why having two of you is so critical. We will not have an open debate with anyone in the middle of group. If someone insists, one of you can walk out, one of you stays in. We're partners in this. So, yes. We have, for those of you that don't know, Sue was pointing, we have online groups. So our online process groups, our online process group leaders follow the same format, the same boundaries that we do in person. and they are doing a fantastic job. They may have it slightly easier since they can lean over and mute if necessary, if somebody doesn't pay attention to that timer that's going off. Yes. I want to reinforce before we leave this. It's in your book. You guys see it every time you read the boundaries. But I really, really want you to think about this. Boundaries are what keep people safe. You guys are not being asked to set and enforce rules. These are boundaries that we're all agreeing upon in the group to move forward. The more you embrace that and model that, the more you're going to see that in your group. The next piece that I want to talk about is your format. So this is something that I do think is important that we talk about a little bit, because I think it's fair to say that we've probably all had some relatively different experiences, right? Whether it's because, like we said earlier, some of us have done a 12-step through AA or NA. Maybe some of us have had a step study, 12-step, and some of us have had a process group. Realistically, we've probably had very different experiences in terms of what does this really look like, right, when we come into the room. And we want to make sure that whether online or in person, our process groups are following the same general format. We want to make sure that everybody is getting that consistent experience. So I want to go through this a bit, and I want to make sure we're on the same page. Now, group sizes can vary. Most of you are going to see that we try to keep it between about 10 and 15 people. Doesn't always happen. That's our goal. That is, quite frankly, a healthy number. It's enough people that we're building these relationships, that we're hearing a lot of different perspectives. But it's also not so many that the group is unmanageable. So you're going to see us aim for that. We don't always hit it, but that is our goal. When we go into our first session, I'll be honest with you, I think this is where we have missed the mark many times. Because that first session, that first time we pull everybody into the room, that is our opportunity to set the stage. That is our opportunity to make sure that everybody knows why they're here, what we're doing, and what our goals are. So I really want us to lean into this. I really want us to make sure that as people walk in that very first time, as leaders, right, we're setting expectations correctly. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, what is a process group? We have process group information sessions. Y'all know that. We talk about it in New Beginnings. We're going to talk about it every time we hand someone these green cards, right, these roadmaps. There is still going to be somebody that shows up, I assure you, that does not know what a process group is. Explain to them what they have gotten themselves into. I've had people look at me and go, no. I thought this was a Bible study. Aren't you going to teach me something? I'm like, you do not want me to do that. Like, I'm not here to do anything. I'm just supposed to take notes. Like, nope, it's not a Bible study. Explain what a process group is. Take the time to make sure that everybody is on the same page. They understand where we're going and what we're doing. In that first initial meeting, you're going to review the 12 steps. Make sure they know why we're following them, what we're following. John mentioned earlier, just knowing where you're going is comforting to so many people. You're going to have a conversation about the boundaries. You're going to have a very detailed conversation about the boundaries and what everybody is agreeing to. This is also a time when I highly encourage that you ask, or you encourage them to ask questions. This should be a dialogue. If someone doesn't understand what you're telling them or what you're putting in front of them, this is the time to talk about it. This is one of the few times in your group that you're going to have open dialogue. Invite anyone to speak up if they are confused. You're going to go over the commitment agreement. Has anybody, raise your hand if you've seen that. If you've seen the commitment agreement, it's in your RA handbook. If you haven't taken a look at it, take a look at it. And this is simply, let me say how I want to phrase this. This is our solution And I believe the correct solution to the question I get all the time, well, how many can people miss before they have to get kicked out? Oh, we do not kick people out. We may encourage people that they need to start over because they have missed a critical step. And I can't give you that number. Everybody wants that. Everybody wants to know exactly how many and exactly how often. I can't give you that. This is where your discernment comes in. This is where you're paying attention to the commitment that you're seeing. Who is working it? Who's staying on top of their questions? Who are you seeing freedom in? How are they leaning into the process? Reminding them up front, this is the commitment that we're making, and it's for you. It's not for me. This is for you. But you're making this commitment to yourself, to God, and to everybody in this room. Reinforce that over and over and over again. If someone makes this commitment and they're working through this process and they stop showing up, somebody better follow up. If the first conversation that you have with someone about not showing up is discussing with them that they need to start over, we've dropped the ball. We need to know what's going on. And I'm going to keep coming back to this, discernment and conversation, discernment and conversation. If you come to one of your process group coaches and says, hey, I've got somebody that was doing great and they hadn't showed up the last couple of times, what should I do? The first question they're going to ask you is, have you talked to them? Did you reach out? And that's what this commitment agreement is about. It's not about numbers. It's not about checking a box. It's about really making sure that we understand the commitment that we're making to each other in that room. Go over that day one and make sure everybody feels good with that. You're going to review the sponsor and accountability overview. It is a shorter version of what we talked about today. It's in the RA handbook. Again, they're going to have it. It's a very quick Q&A, but you can use the resources we have today to really lean into that. This is a little different than what some of you may be used to. Years ago, we didn't even start talking about sponsors till we were 4 steps into the process. Day one, you've got to start reinforcing, guys, don't walk through this without some people. And talk to them about how they get their people. You're going to go over the meeting format and expectations. We'll talk about this in a minute, but what I mean by that is tell them what's going to happen moving forward. If you've never done this before, the first time that you walk in and somebody says, all right, read what you wrote, it's a little intimidating. And John doesn't give you any time to like warm up to this. Y'all have read the first step questions. It's like, what's your deepest, darkest shame from childhood? I'm like, listen, I just got here. I don't even know who you people are yet. Like, what about what's your favorite color? Like, where'd you go to school? Like, you don't get any of that. This first group is how you help alleviate that, right? How we help people feel more and more comfortable. So talk through the format. We're going to go over that in a minute, but you are literally going to talk through, here's what I'm asking of you. Here's what next week is going to look like. We are going to sit in a circle. We are going to introduce ourselves in this fashion. We're going to answer these questions. We're going to share with each other. And then give them an opportunity to practice it. Also in your RA handbook, there are 3 questions for that first meeting. After you explain all of this, read the boundaries, introduce yourself, let them go around and answer those questions. It gives us an opportunity to get to know each other, kind of test it out, get a feel for the process before we come back with all of those deep, dark questions that we jump into. Use this as a checklist when you walk into that initial meeting. Make sure that you're covering this. I'm telling you, if you will set your expectations correctly up front, you're going to have a much healthier group than if you just wing it. John and Brian apparently can wing it. We do not wing process groups. We are going to plan those. He's not listening. So what does that format look like? What does that expectation look like? This is intentionally simplified, and it's probably going to be a lot simpler than what some of you are used to. You're going to explain to them, hey, you guys are going to go out of here. You're going to read through chapter 1, going to answer your questions. You're going to bring them back in next week, right? Make sure that they know what's going on. We talk a little bit here about how you're going to set the room up, making sure that the location is private, making sure that it's safe. We will handle that for you. We will make sure you have a safe and private location. You are going to emphasize to them we turn our cell phones off. I want you sitting in here the whole time. Obviously, emergencies happen. If you have emergencies happening every week, we need to discuss the definition of an emergency. Make sure that they understand what your expectations are. This is something that I really lean into. Time. Start and end on time, without exception. I do not care if the 2 leaders are the only people in the room. If you start at 6:30, we start talking at 6:30. There are 2 reasons that this is important. One, when we first get into recovery, our life is often nothing but chaos. This group will not be chaos. This will be a safe place where we know what to expect and we know what's going to happen. No chaos. 2, there are a lot of people that are dependent on child care. They've left their kids somewhere. They may need to get to work. They may be coming from work. We're going to be respectful of people's time. And I'm going to tell you, this is going to be one of the things that you struggle with at first. That's just, it's just the reality of it is. People are, again, coming out of chaos. Model it, expect it. Be very, very clear with them. When you get into your group, when you get into the process of starting this, you'll see at the end of this, there's some very key things we want you to hit. Again, this is simplified. This is not going to include a lot of the things some of you are used to. We're not reading through the lesson. We don't have a long devotional. We don't have 15 minutes of worship. It's not because those things are bad. They aren't bad. But why are we in this room? That's right. We're here to work this process. And the vast majority of time should be spent on this process. I'm going to tell you right now, if they come in this room in the first 15 minutes, they listen to you talk, you're talking too much. The process is what we're doing. I said, if everybody walks in the room and for 15 minutes they listen to you talk before they start answering questions, you are talking too much. They're not here for you. We are all here. Exactly. So when I say start on time, that means let's sit down, let's open in prayer. And opening in prayer is key. I'll be honest with you, I miss this. I miss this in people groups. I move too fast. I mean, you can ask Jessica. She's got to keep me honest all the time. I miss half the stuff I'm supposed to be doing because I'm moving too fast. And that's exactly why we open in prayer. People are rushing in. You know what I mean? They're on 2 tires in the parking lot, right? They're sliding in. They don't know where their work is. Somebody's forgot their notebook. Somebody's still on the phone with their kids. Somebody forgot to go to the bathroom. I mean, we just come in here like craziness. Opening in prayer gives us an opportunity to slow down. We have a start. We have a focus. Review the step. Review the corresponding scripture. Everybody's got the book. Everybody can follow along. We're not like round robin reading the lesson. That was what we do independently throughout the week. We're reviewing the step. We're reviewing the lesson. The most important things we are doing at this point, boundaries. We review the boundaries. We get everyone's agreement to keep the boundaries. And then we move into sharing. It's very simple. We get in, we start sharing, we start answering those questions. Make sure that you're closing in prayer. We've got a note in here. Everybody likes prayer requests. We highly recommend you using note cards. It can get very time consuming every week to try to go around in a circle and ask everybody for their prayer requests. Note cards are great. It also gives you the opportunity to take something each week and you pray over someone for an entire week. Now that I've put this out here, this is the expectation for your group. This is the format that we're looking for you to follow. Let me say, for example, 6:30 to 8, that hour and a half, right, that you've set aside. Now, does this mean that you don't have flexibility? Mm-mm. If you feel it's important to your group and the way you're seeing people grow, that you need to have a few minutes available up front for conversation, a few minutes afterwards for conversation, maybe you want a few minutes of worship. You have an opportunity to offer an optional time before and after. Totally okay. If you're not sure that what you want to do is okay, you have a coach. Go to your coaches. That's fine. Flexibility is fine. Meeting your group's needs are fine. But for that hour and a half that they've committed to, that they're in here for, this is what we're doing. We're doing the process. Yes, Norma. You do have that flexibility. I'm not sure if anybody heard Norma's question, but Norma's question was, I've heard that if people have trouble following the boundaries, sometimes it's helpful to let them read the boundaries. Sure, you have that level of flexibility. Exactly. You can allow folks to open and close in prayer, right? You can, sometimes the best way to keep somebody on time that will not stop talking when the timer goes off is to make them time. You have those types of flexibility, right? This is intentionally short because what I'm telling you is this is the format you need to stick to. Outside of that, that's where you have the ability to use some discernment. That's where you have the ability to lead. And again, we are not islands, right? We are all in this together. Your process group coaches are going to be reaching out to you before you get started. They're going to be reaching out to you at least on a monthly basis. You need to be reaching out to them. We're in this together. We want to make sure that this is a healthy, productive experience for everybody. What outstanding questions, concerns do you have? Yeah. That is another, that is a prime example of, okay, this is a boundary, right? You make a decision in the moment. Is this going to hurt someone? If this is going to hurt someone, okay, I'm going to have to ask you not to be so graphic. If it's not, you have a private conversation afterwards. If you're not sure that you handled that private conversation, talk to your process group coach. So as we close out, I'm going to ask you to do this, and this is the practical part of this, okay? We're ready to start groups. We got to start groups in March. If you're ready, when you look at these leadership requirements, if this is you, and you're ready to sign up, I need to see you. So as we break, we'll be over here. Just give me a heads up before you leave, and we're going to work with you, and we're going to start getting you aligned with a co-leader. We're going to get you aligned with a process group coach. We're going to get you lined up and get you started. We're scheduling months out. If you're in the middle of a process group now, and you know in 3 months you're going to be done, and you're going to want to lead, don't walk out of here without talking to us, all right? Thank you, guys.
Is this one? Okay. So, John was supposed to announce this, but I'm going to go ahead and announce this. We have a lot of cleaning up to do to get ready for Sunday. So, if you guys can stay and help get these tables up. Don't go there, Daniel. Mark is here, and Mark usually has to put this sanctuary together by himself. That is a lot of chairs to put out by himself. So please, if you can, especially if you're a man, help put these tables up and help Mark get these chairs out. And please pick up your trash because we are not your parents. Okay? We love y'all, and thank y'all so much for coming today. And we will see y'all in the morning for church.